So I'm actually a pretty lazy cook. I don't like complicated recipes, I don't meal prep for hours, and most days I just want food that works without having to think much or at all about it. And yet, since my health is one of my absolute top priorities, I have consistently been eating healthy for as long as I can remember, even before I became a nutritionist. Not because I'm super disciplined or anything, but because I've set things up in a way that makes healthy eating almost automatic and saving me a lot of mental energy and also time. So in this video, I'm sharing the 6 super simple habits that make this possible and that will also help you make eating healthy feel like the most natural, easy thing in the world. Habit number 1 is kind of the anchor habit. It's where it all starts, literally, because it's about your breakfast. Specifically, I have about 3 to 4 breakfasts that I rotate through. They're super easy to make, they're high protein and high fibers, so they keep me full for long, they're easy to do, and most importantly, I don't have to think about them because I basically do the same thing every day. I have my breakfast that I usually have Monday through Friday, then I have my Saturday breakfast, and then I have my Sunday breakfast. And if I ever get bored of one of them, I just switch them up. But then I only have to think about it once and not all the time. And these go-to breakfasts all are rich in protein, rich in fiber, and have healthy fats, because protein, fiber, and healthy fats are important to keep your blood sugar stable, and with that, your cravings healthily, so that later in the day, you're not craving that much junk food or, simple carbs. And by having a set breakfast, you don't have to think about it in the morning. And that helps a lot with not suffering from decision fatigue when it comes to what you should eat. Meaning, you don't have to decide every morning what you're gonna eat. And then because you're lazy or you don't have the time to think about what you're eating, you will just grab a croissant from the bakery. And if you're someone who gets bored easily of eating the same thing every day, you can have a base kind of breakfast and then just switch up the ingredients or the way you prepare the breakfast. For example, my absolute go-to Monday through Friday is some sort of yogurt bowl. Usually that consists of Greek yogurt, psyllium husks for the extra fiber and your gut health, chia seeds, healthy fats, fiber, oats, fiber, healthy carb, frozen berries for the vitamins, fiber, and taste. And then usually I top it with either nuts or seeds or cocoa nibs or cocoa powder, and I prepare that the night before so that I don't have to think about it in the morning, and I don't even have to do anything except take them out of my fridge and maybe top some nuts over it. And then it's done. And here I usually change up the berries that I put on, the nuts that I put on. Sometimes I have oats, sometimes I have buckwheat flakes, sometimes I do it with cocoa, sometimes I do it without, sometimes I do it with raspberries, sometimes blueberries, sometimes I put apple in there, or frozen mango, whatever I'm feeling like. My Saturday breakfast is usually scrambled eggs, because during the week, I personally don't want to cook in the morning, even though I love eggs for breakfast. I know myself, I will be too lazy to cook, let alone to clean the pan. So I only usually do that on Saturdays, where I'm more chill, and then I add some sort of fiber to the eggs. Either I have bread with it and or some sort of fruit or some sort of vegetable, for example carrot sticks. My go-to here is usually the eggs, sometimes with some more cottage cheese or just 3 to 4 eggs to get enough protein, and then a kiwi, and then 1 or 2 slices of either crisp bread with butter, which I love, or sourdough bread. And again, here if I want some change, either I mix in some cottage cheese into the eggs, which is really amazing because it tastes very cheesy, or I vary the fruit that I have with it, or I have veggies with it, or I vary the bread that I have with it. You get the gist. And on Sundays I usually have my protein pancakes. If you want the recipe, have a look at my Instagram. And those are the 3 breakfasts that I basically eat all the time. Another great idea here, if that's your thing, is to just have leftovers from last night's dinner or lunch that you can just heat up, and then you have a full breakfast, because you don't have to eat breakfast foods or breakfast. You can eat any kind of food that you want. And when you have your breakfast protein rich, fiber rich, without any decisions that you have to make, you set the tone for the whole day. Not because breakfast is magical or anything, but it removes any kind of chaos in the morning, or just, tone for the day. Habit number 2 is basically the same as habit number 1, but for the rest of the day, which is to build default meals, which are meals that you can always go back to and that you don't have to rethink all the time. I usually have about 5 to maybe 7 meals that I eat on repeat for lunch and for dinner, and then I rotate through them until I get sick of one of them, and then I switch them up. Either I just change an ingredient again, or I come up with a whole new thing because I saw something on Instagram and I found a way to make that very easy. And at least one of these default meals should be your backup dinner. That is super easy to make and that you could basically make half asleep, because then you have something that you can do even if you're totally tired from work and are not in the mood to do anything. And to build these default meals, you just have to put in the thought once, how to get enough protein in there, how to get enough fiber, healthy fats, and complex carbs. And once you have that, you don't have to think about it too much. And what I like to do here, usually, I have most of my go-to meals in my head ready, but to make sure that I don't forget, or if I, want to help my brain out a little bit, I just take photos, especially when I come up with something new, a new default meal. I just snap a picture and I have a particular album in my photo app where I have my own, no complicated Instagram recipes, just my own snapshots of the very, very simple, quick recipes that I can go back to. If you want some inspiration of what I usually eat, of what my default meals look like, you can check out my Instagram. I share that in my stories there all the time. Or if you need a personalized guidance to build your own default meals that work for your goals, for your preferences, for your schedule, I'm currently working on a health reset workbook, which not only summarizes what nutrition science says that your healthy eating should look like, but also guides you through how to make those findings applicable to your daily life. In this case, how to build the healthiest yet easiest default meals for yourself. It'll give you a framework that helps you decide once what your goal 2 meals are going to look like, so that you don't have to keep thinking about what to eat every single day. If you don't want to miss when the workbook goes live, make sure to sign up for the waitlist, link below. Habit number 3 is something that I've been doing since I can remember. It's been in my intuition, or I grew up with that, and I've kept doing it even after learning the theory. And it's something that is sometimes controversial, because you sometimes hear that snacking is unhealthy, or that you should fast for 20 hours. But this is, especially for women, not the smartest idea. So habit number 3 is to eat regularly, meaning at least have 3 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you're a woman, intermittent fasting, at least for the average woman, is not recommendable. If you've been doing intermittent fasting and it works for you, you do you. My recommendation for the average woman is not to do intermittent fasting, but instead to have breakfast within optimally the first 60 minutes of waking up. I used to do that because I woke up hungry. Then I heard about the benefits of intermittent fasting, so I started to have light breakfast at around 11 a.m. And that is one thing that messed up my hormones. And since I went back to having breakfast first thing in the morning, I've been feeling so much better, especially calmer, and it helped rebalance my hormones a lot. And if you're someone who thinks that skipping breakfast or skipping lunch is great because it's gonna save you some calories, if you're someone who's trying to save some calories, that, my friend, usually backfires. Because if you skip a meal, especially if you're a woman, because we're more sensitive to things like skipping a meal, that can destabilize your blood sugar. Meaning if you don't eat for too long, you get really, really hungry. Meaning your blood sugar is down here. So your body thinks like, ooh, I really, really need to get that blood sugar back up. So it sends you a lot of intense cravings, usually for very unhealthy, fatty, carb-rich food, which are very energy dense and will raise your blood sugar very quickly, and then you overeat. This is what happens to so many women. Pretty much every one of my clients has experienced that at some point. When you skip a meal, or you just try to not eat so much during the day, and then you overeat at night. And also regular meals help with reducing food noise, aka thinking about what you're gonna have for the next meal all the time. For most people, 3 meals a day is a good starting point. But if you feel like you need snacks in between, have snacks. Snacking is, for the average person, absolutely not unhealthy. What is unhealthy is unhealthy snacks. Which brings me to the next habit: have healthy go-to snacks always available, so that you don't even want to reach for the chocolate bar in between meals. Snacking is actually one of the biggest problems of people, because meals are easier to plan to be healthy, but snacking you usually do when you're out and snacks are lying around, unhealthy snacks, or when you're hungry between meals but you don't have anything healthy lying around, so you of course reach for the candy. So what helps here is to always have healthy snacks available and ready and easy for you to get and eat. What constitutes a healthy snack? Well, a snack that is rich in protein and or fats, not only carbs. And because if you only eat carbs, that might lead to blood sugar spikes, and that again might lead to unhealthy eating behaviors. I, for example, have always been a big snacker, and in the past, even though I'm a healthy eater in general, intuitively, snacking I struggled with. So I often snacked on potato chips, or maybe pretzels, or something else purely made out of carbs, usually simple carbs. And that was not good for my blood sugar. So now what I do instead is usually I always basically have boiled eggs in my fridge, which are an amazing snack. Just 1 boiled egg, maybe with some, or 2, maybe with some mustard on it if it's too boring by itself. Cheese, just cheese sticks or a Parmesan, cube. Nuts, maybe with some fruit, yogurt, with a topping, without. Pure cottage cheese, I sometimes just eat the cottage cheese right out of the package because, you know, why not? Or lentil crackers, one of my absolute favorites, usually with nut butter or cottage cheese. Here again, it helps if you figure out once what kind of snacks work for you, what you like, what you can easily prep and always have ready, and then make sure you always have that at home. For example, either in your fridge or your freezer. Which brings me to the next habit, using your freezer as your safety net or your best friend. My freezer is literally my best friend. And I currently have a very small freezer, but I will change that soon because the freezer is amazing. First, for things like frozen vegetables and frozen fruits. Frozen fruits and vegetables are not less healthy than fresh ones. Very often, actually, they're more nutritious because usually they get frozen right after harvesting, meaning they still contain all of the micronutrients and vitamins in there, while the ones on the shelf keep losing all their vitamins as the longer they are laying on the shelf. But not only that, also, they're very easy to prepare. First, they don't go as bad as quickly, so usually, you know, you can just always have them as a backup. And also, you don't have to cut or wash anything. I, for example, pretty much always have frozen spinach, broccoli, and or peas in my freezer, and always at least one sort of berries for my morning yogurt bowl. Then I also usually always salmon fillet in there. Fillet salmon in there, which is one of the best protein sources that you can find, in my humble opinion. And usually I also have some slices of frozen sourdough bread in there, which is good not only because sometimes you just don't have fresh bread at home, but also when you freeze bread or any kind of grain, honestly, that freezing process changes the starch in the bread into resistant starch, which makes it a lot healthier for your gut, because it's a kind of fiber and it feeds your gut bacteria. So that way you always have healthy ingredients that are very, very, very easy to prepare. You just have to throw it all together in a pot. And also something that you can do, I would do that all the time if I had a bigger freezer, is to freeze leftover foods. For example, if you make a stew or a soup or a pasta sauce or basically anything, make more of that and then freeze the rest. And that way you always have a meal that you can just heat up when you're tired and don't want to cook, which is something that also helps with habit number 6, which is to remove cooking friction. For me personally, that meant getting an air fryer and using it pretty much every day. The microwave can also work, but I don't have a microwave, first of all, and second of all, the microwave usually makes things soft and the air fryer makes everything crisp and tastier. And I use it for heating up things, for unfreezing things, for baking things, for frying things, for basically anything that I want to do except cooking maybe. Although I actually heard a friend of mine used to do that too. So you can basically also use it for cooking and it's quicker usually than when you use the stove. But you can also use microwave, whatever makes cooking, the bit of cooking, or let's call it maybe meal prepping, feel easy for you and basically frictionless. For me, for example, one of my absolute go-tos is to just put salmon fillet, maybe some Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes into my air fryer. That takes maybe 3 minutes of cutting the sweet potato, 15 minutes in the air fryer, and I have a full meal. And I drizzle some olive oil over it. Easy and healthy and yummy. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for being here. Remember to like and subscribe. And if you like this video, I'm very sure you're gonna like this one as well. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in my next one.